call the Gas and Electric, Middleboro Gas and Electric Commission meeting to order. It's Wednesday, March 13th, 2019. And
Today is, that's the last one's
that's
Monday.
the old form you gave me. I'm sorry. April 3rd. This meeting is being recorded by Middleboro Community Cable Access Media, Verizon and Comcast, and we'll start the meeting with Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag starting out prestigious. Under announcements and recognition, a few Saturdays ago, Sandy Richter and Jeanette, I know Jeanette probably did some of the work, but we had an energy workshop for 4 hours in this room. And I just want to say again, first of all, I apologize that I didn't only make half of it, but that was an outstanding, really was a tremendous day. A lot of information, really good information, and I was really surprised at who was there, some of the questions, and you did an outstanding job at it. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I so appreciate that, and just a quick shout out and thank you to everyone that attended, and especially those that stuck out the 4 hours. We went over a number of smart energy tech subjects, and people were truly enthusiastic and strongly supportive, and we were very grateful for that. One of the things that came out of that was that, and we want to present just really quickly right now, is some information about the results of our residential conservation services. So if the board will indulge me,
Yep.
Just want to go over a few slides here. This is the at-a-glance presentation that we do for the progress of our residential conservation services. We are now getting some very good information about how many audits, what we now call home energy assessments, are completed on a yearly basis, and rebates, and what this all means for Middleboro Gas and Electric Department in terms of energy savings. In this case, we wanted to show very quickly, in 2018, we had an average of 14.25 rebates per month. That's up from a high back in 2017 of 12 home energy assessments per month. Shows clearly that the trend is going up. We have a new audit tool, a new assessment that's very much more sophisticated than what was given to our customers previously. Highly encourage people to go ahead and sign up through Energy New England. Here's the phone number, 888-772-4242. And if they'd like to sign up online, they're getting sophisticated too. We now can go to ee for energy efficiency, .ene for Energy New England.org, and they can get all of this information about going ahead and trying out a new home energy assessment. That's the doorway that gets them into all of the information about our rebates, especially weatherization rebates that are so important to keep the home sealed and weatherized. But I wanted to show a trend line here. We had a major overhaul of this program, including the survey instrument, or the home energy assessment instrument, in 2018, which is why we're seeing such an increase of, in this case, 19% over 2017 in 2018. I can tell you right now that we're already in line for 20 audits per month average right now. So we're shooting to the moon at this point, the number of audits. We also want to show that we do, when we're in the home performing these audits, right now we're installing LED light bulbs. This is a kind of a standard for people to get the mass save audit if you've ever had that experience, and I have. Go through your home and install a bunch of LED light bulbs. I have to laugh. We actually, that trend is going up as well. In 2018 we installed 523. But that said, the trend is going down this year already, and I can tell you why. everybody and their mother already has an LED light bulbs throughout their home. They've come way down in price. The reason we try to install LED light bulbs is to show customers, first of all, how easy it is to save energy, but number two, to be able to capture the savings, the kilowatt hour savings. We can claim that we installed something directly that actually saves energy, and that proves to the state level and the federal level that we are capturing a certain amount of kilowatt hour savings through our spending. Appliance rebates are more popular than ever. We had a kind of a low in 2017 of 93 rebates. Part of that reason was because refrigerators meeting the Energy Star qualifications dropped significantly because there was an upgrade in the standard, the energy standard for refrigerators that previous year. So there weren't as many refrigerators qualifying for Energy Star rebates, and therefore there was kind of a drop in the number of people purchasing Energy Star qualified refrigerators. Beyond that, 2018, it's just been tremendous. Just last year, we did 330 different rebates, and this rebate by type shows you that by far refrigerators are the most popular, along with clothes washers. These are the two rebates that we actually require customers to provide us the information for the previous appliance that they are replacing. That, again, is going to help us capture the actual energy savings by the use of one refrigerator, the old refrigerator versus the new one. We need to know that information. And yes, Mass Save does require this as well. They need to know the old appliance information because they too are trying to capture or be able to claim and know completely what an actual savings will happen as a result of putting in a new Energy Star appliance. The rebates, dollars paid to save those kilowatt hours, this is an intriguing number because it's what we need to kind of pay attention to. Are we putting our rebate dollars in the right place to make sure we are paying as little as we can for each kilowatt hour that we're saving? We want that cost of a kilowatt hour saved to truly be as low as possible. So you want to capture as much savings as you can. Here you'll see that that line, the graph line there, is showing the savings in kilowatt hours versus the bar for the cost of that. And what that clearly shows is that refrigerators are not the instrument that is going to save the most kilowatt hours when someone replaces their refrigerator with an Energy Star qualified. One reason is because last year they actually did change the standards. So now we're seeing the standards narrow quite a bit. If you go for a new refrigerator, there's not as much of a savings captured with an Energy Star versus a current standard refrigerator. Number two, and this is true for everyone, people tend to go for the bigger and better refrigerator. We're not actually capturing savings as much as we'd like to. People are not replacing a 30 whatever refrigerator, size refrigerator, to the they're going to a 50 or something like that. They're going up a size, they're going with more bells and whistles, and yes, that can still be Energy Star qualified. However, it's Energy Star qualified for the same level of refrigerator. Now, Mass Save and a bunch of other agencies are starting to look seriously at saying that you will not, these new refrigerators will not be qualified unless you are capturing like to like, or you are actually going down in kilowatt hours versus the old use. I remember reading an article once that the 1940s refrigerator uses a tenth of what the current refrigerator does in kilowatt hours. Because for one thing, you had to defrost it yourself. But there are a number of bells and whistles, obviously, and size. So it's worth looking at, and that's something that we'll be looking at reporting in the future. So weatherization rebates to focus on right now, we are focused on insulation. We dropped doors and windows for the same reason that Mass Save dropped doors and windows, and we had this question in the workshop too. Even though people love to replace their doors and windows, particularly windows, it really is a preference, and it's not necessarily capturing much energy savings. I can show all kinds of information about the fact that while you're going to a less drafty window, you're going to a better insulated window. It's not going to capture as much savings as we would like to see versus insulation, which is why we doubled up on insulation and cut out, like Mass Save did, cut out doors and windows. Now, in the Mass Save issue, they will provide rebating for whole house activity, construction, things like upgrades like that, that include doors and windows. But we're not doing that kind of a large project. We're looking specifically at item by item that people are doing in their home.
Just out of curiosity, even if you put that, they advertise that plastic on the inside,
That
on the
is,
window,
that's weatherization, and
That's
that's not buying a replacement window, that's just a weatherization.
but that added to the window itself doesn't?
It does help, it absolutely
Okay,
does help.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, and not only that, but that action is considered a weatherization or air sealing action as opposed to a replacement action. That is rebatable.
Okay.
As long as you've had your home energy assessment first, and they recommended it, you absolutely can get rebate cash for that, so, credit on the bill, so, excuse me. So just wanted to point that out. And then here's what we are looking at in terms of 2018 services. These are just for appliance rebating. That's what we managed to capture in 2018 with the updated practices at Energy New England. This year we'll be able to capture all services that we do, including weatherization. But in 2018 we were able to capture that we can say that we saved 55,715 kilowatt hours at a cost of, for those appliance rebates, $18,000, which gives us that first look at what does that cost per kilowatt hour. And again, part of that is we did not have some of this information at the beginning of the year, so it's less reliable. I think 2019 will be a far better number to rely on. We can verify that we have 55,715 kilowatt hours saved. However, I think the full year of 2019 will be much higher level than that. And this, of course, is we'd like to say what our equivalency is, 64.1 metric tons of carbon dioxide. And that is the beauty of having the help from an agency that can quantify all of this for us, because I can tell you I couldn't do it myself. So.
We've been pushing Energy New England for the last couple of years to produce this kind of a report, and I think it was our persistence, along with some other municipal light plants, that has them now focused on producing a product that we can use. I'll use this information when I report to the Federal Energy Information Administration on our electric use for 2018, but also the programs that we offer. You couldn't report before if you couldn't quantify. So now we could report on our solar net metering programs, but we couldn't report on all these other things that we do. So this is great. It gives us a chance to document what we've been doing for some time, but that now we're accelerating.
I just would like to end for one brief minute that this does not include, we hope to include it in 2019, the fact that we offer a weatherization assistance grant specifically through what we call CAP agencies or citizen action agencies for those that qualify for fuel assistance. South Shore Community Action Council for Middleboro, Citizens for Citizens for people of Lakeville. Those that qualify for fuel assistance are eligible to take advantage of the funds that we grant directly to these agencies to upgrade their insulation factors, to upgrade the weatherization of their homes, and if need be, upgrade their heating appliances as well. So we've done a lot of work for many families already in both Middleboro and Lakeville. I'll be able to quantify that in terms of kilowatt hours saved this year.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Murphy speaking. Sandy, to the best of my understanding, the deadline for filing for fuel assistance / weatherization assistance programs is April 30th of this month. That's with the South Shore Community Action Council, and for the Lakeville users, I'm not really certain of the organization.
Citizens, yeah.
Oh, now, if you happen to be over 60 years old, the COA is very helpful here in Middleboro as far as filling out the paperwork, but you must call them and ask them for the application and make your appointment with the COA if you are over 60. Irrespective of your ages, though, you should contact the South Shore Community Action Council and ask them to provide you with the application if you have not already, and make certain that you get it filled out and properly filed by April the 30th of this month.
Thank you for that. That is the gateway into the Weatherization Assistance Program.
Yes.
That is fully funding the work to be done on someone's home. If it's the opposite, well, I'm going to say the opposite, it's not a rebate, it's even better
Yes.
for those that qualify for it. So, and we want to be able to quantify and capture that savings as well. So,
Thank you, Sandy.
thank you for
Thank you.
Thanks,
letting me
Sandy.
speak.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was excellent. I thought it was very good. I enjoyed that. I'm sorry I couldn't see the whole 4 hours.
You missed nothing. You had fun the whole time you were there, and everyone was very dynamic. And
Yeah.
hopefully, we're going to have it on film and video too, edited for time, because we're not going to do a full 4 hours to anyone. But we should be able to get this on our website as well. So thank you very much. for
Do you
that.
want to mention future workshops as well?
Yeah, we, actually, thank you. We're asking people who are interested in single item workshops, so single subject workshops, just solar, just electric vehicles, just how to program your thermostat these days, that kind of thing, to go onto our website and find what we call smart energy workshops, smart energy events, I believe is what we've got on the website. And go ahead and read that page, and it will guide you to a web form that you can tell us what subjects you'd like us to engage in and bring out to your community. There's plenty of different spaces we can go to, places we can go to talk and go over these subjects that people are more interested in. But we'll try to keep each one of those to about an hour, so it isn't a 4-hour marathon like we did. Though I'm amazed that people did stay and came and went as they needed, so.
You have another event later this month too, yes?
Oh, yes, again, we'll mention, we're doing an EV Drive event, and that's going to be on our celebration of Earth Day, which is April 27th. We're skipping past the Easter weekend and getting out the next weekend and asking people to come right here to the parking lot. There's going to be kind of a caravan of electric vehicles coming into town. They're doing a video taking shots of the area that they're passing through, but people will get a chance to take a look at these electric vehicles again. We did have a great time over, I want to mention that too, at the middle school, the Nicholas Middle School, with the students at the STEAM Carnival to just take a good look at the kinds of vehicles that they themselves might be driving in a few years, and could be driving over to the new high school, which will have charging capacity over there for electric vehicles. So people are really starting to have a great interest in electric vehicles. And I was just telling Jackie, I just follow every probably once a week, I follow an electric vehicle into town as I'm coming into work. And it's now dawning on me, they are in a lot of places. And so we are going to have them here in this parking lot here on April 27th, pretty much in the middle of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
I don't know whether we've ever brought it up before, but I mean, you're a part of that federal,
I was going to talk about it under projects.
okay,
Yeah,
that's fine.
sure.
Any further announcements or recognitions? Unanticipated?
Mr. Chairman,
Go
if
right
I
ahead,
may.
Paul.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I apologize for not giving you a little heads up on this one, but I just got a couple of questions from Ms. Jackie down there. This would be the third time we had asked for, or I had asked for, a copy of the contract.
They're
Did-
on our
so-
website.
The contract is now published on the
Yeah,
website?
It is. They got
Oh, excellent.
completely executed by the agent for the AFSCME, the union, just at the beginning of last week. So we got them on the website this week.
Perfect. Is that also including, now that's your gas, electric, and clerical workers. Now, what about the non-union workers for,
We don't have contracts for any of the workers but me.
you're the only one that's contracted, so how are those people followed up with as far as compensation and benefits and all of
Their
those?
benefits are consistent with the union agreements. We really mirror them. So management benefits are consistent with union benefits.
So then my other question is, do you have a list of people that negotiated that contract?
Negotiated what contract?
The union contract?
I could, we always have the same negotiating team generally. It's the general manager,
Mhm.
and then the division heads,
Mhm.
and then we used Labor Counsel as well, so an attorney.
So could you, my request would be if you could email me that list of those people that negotiated that contract, would be very helpful.
Sure.
Okay, so the other thing I have a question about is, I was just looking through again, this is in my quest for information, an audited financial report, and I was able to get a town report for 2017, but I guess the 2018 doesn't come out till quite a while. And in that 2017 report, you say if anyone wants a edited or an audited financial report, just give a call. So do you guys have the audited 2018 report available yet?
2018 won't be available for a couple of months now. That
Okay.
usually is completed in the late spring, early summer, because we rely on the outside auditor. And they'll come here and do a presentation and give you a copy.
Did they already did the audit though, am I correct?
I don't think.
Do they do that, don't they do that fairly quickly after the,
No, the Goulet and Salvidio hasn't done our audit for 2018 yet. They did the audit for 17.
so a reasonable expectation for that would be June-ish?
I suspect June. I know that we've had them in the office already at least twice.
Okay.
I think they're still crunching the numbers, but I can also email you when we would expect that would be completed.
That'd be awesome, I appreciate
Sure.
that. Thank you, Jackie, thank you, Chairman.
Any other unanticipated public comment? Review and possible vote to accept and release the open session meetings of March 13th, 2019.
Mr. Chairperson, Commissioner Murphy speaking. I make a motion that we vote to accept and release the open session minutes of March 13, 2019.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Old business, update on John Glass Junior Square project.
Good evening. My name is Rick Labossiere. I'm the gas division manager of engineering and planning. So we have a couple of slides up here to show you this project. Is that going on, please?
This is your pipe
So
replacement, Jim.
most people may
This
be
is about
familiar
your pipe replacement.
Yeah.
with the downtown area. We're, in 2019, we're proposing to replace all the cast iron gas mains and upgrade and tie over new services to the new mains, the old services to the new mains, in the area in which the town plans, or the state with the town plans to pave in 2020. And that's a good portion, what you see on the screen there, an aerial photo of the work. It's shown in a general fashion. Those locations are not exact, but that gives you the sense. It's a total of approximately 3,000 feet of gas main, and the project has already started. So these next couple of slides, it shows portions of our road permit that we've submitted, and which was approved with the town. And it's tough to show at this scale, but if you, that's even easier. If you look right above the word Center Street, you see a dotted line, that represents the existing cast iron main. That particular one is the 8-inch that's existing out there now. And we're proposing to put another main right alongside of it to the north side. And like I said, the project has already started. So again, this actually starts, depending which way you want to look at it. If we started towards Main Street, we are already up to 232, approximately 232 Center Street, with work done in the prior couple of years from South Main up to here. And now this is going to continue all the way to John Glass Junior Square, and continuing, that 8-inch main is the trunk line, and that actually continues onto Center Ave. So that's approximately 1,700 feet of the 8-inch. Like I said, Dave will talk a little more about where we're at with construction thus far this week. And if there are any specific questions about certain areas. And then besides that main road that they're paving and the square itself, they're also going, they're going up in both sides of Oak Street just a little, to cap off their project. And also on Forest and Everett and Station and Center and Center Ave. So we're proposing that we're gonna go in there and we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna replace the cast iron mains, and this was all in the budget for this past year. Replace the mains, replace or upgrade the existing services and tie them to the new main. And then everything under all that beautiful new pavement will be all plastic and upgraded and hopefully leak-free for a long, long time.
On, how much does it affect, like, the businesses? I mean, are there any significant closings?
Well, one of the big hurdles is already mostly completed, and that's in front of the church at Oak Street, because they never know when someone's gonna be using the 10 a.m. services on a weekday. So
Yeah.
we get 2 or 3 days notice that we're clear, and he's already done quite a bit of that, working closely with the church. But it's definitely gonna impact. Dave's working very closely with the businesses. If they happen to have Monday off, we'll try to work in that area on a Monday, so it won't impact them as much.
Yeah.
We need to get this work done as well, because often the town's plans for paving or any kind of work are what drive our plans. So we have to
Yeah.
get ours done before they can come in, because we don't want to be cutting into that new pavement once they've done all that work, spent all that money, so that we have a fast timeline to make sure that we can meet their deadline for getting the work done in John Glass Square.
Yeah, no, I understand that. It's just that there's like a lot of, like,
Yeah.
restaurants and like the seafood place. I mean, I think there's enough parking in areas close there that if somebody wants to walk and go to the restaurants or the seafood place, you know, they can still get there. But I mean, for a period of time, like, used to be Farrah's, you know, they'd be out of gas for cooking, I'm assuming. No?
Probably for, we'll work with them. We'll
Yep.
probably do most of our work, and there might be an hour or two that we might even come in at 5 to make sure it
Okay,
happens.
all
So that
right.
they're
No,
not
all right.
inconvenienced. But as far as construction and construction vehicles,
Yeah.
there's gonna be some
Oh,
of
yeah,
that.
no.
But a lot of that area is widened.
Yeah.
It's more narrow down to Benny's area, but that side, it kind of opens up a little bit.
No, as far as the parking, I think there's enough parking around there where you could go there and it'd be a short walk to any of the businesses. I mean, I don't think that's gonna be an issue at all. I was just thinking of the restaurants and what they, you know, if they're serving meals, you know, if it's an hour, that's, you know, just a problem for an hour, but if it's, as long as it's not for like a day or longer,
We don't anticipate that.
yeah, okay, that's fine.
So I've got a couple other bits and pieces if you would like, a couple pictures. If you want to wait on that for a moment. One of the other big projects, of course, that we're doing is we're working with getting gas service through the high school property, the new high school, and we'll be, you know, planning a service with them as well. And if time permits, we've got a couple of projects that we still have in the works from last year. And I know the board keeps pretty close track to some of our numbers that we have for the cast iron mains. So we started at the beginning of the year with 6.38 miles of cast iron pipe. When John Glass Junior Square is completed, that'll bring it down to 5.81 miles. And a couple of projects that we're in the middle of. Last year, we were able to put a new main in on School Street Extension, and some of the services are tied over, but not all of them. When they're all tied over, we can abandon that 1,300 feet. And we also are working on Oak Street from Center down to Pearl. We have the main in there as well. If we can get those services all tied over and a 600-foot section of main on Southwick Street, and all that done, that'll be an additional 3,100 feet, which would bring us to 5.21 miles of cast iron.
Yeah, and,
We're fortunate like that.
and we're well ahead of whatever the governor is doing about that
Yep.
Merrimack
They
situation.
keep an eye on us, and they let us do our thing, and they're pleased because they haven't asked us to step it up.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would think that we're way ahead of most towns and cities and,
Yes.
Well, other comparable municipal light plants still have, 40, 50 miles
Yeah.
of cast iron to go, so we are really dealing with it at a very fast clip at this point.
yep, excellent, excellent.
So I know Danny's got a couple of photos. Dave might want to talk about where they are and
Yep.
what you see in them maybe.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Dave Shaw, Gas Division Operations Manager. We started Monday morning, and we had a good day. We got about 160 feet in, and Tuesday we got about another 150. Then today it rained, so it kind of slowed us down a little bit, but everything's been going good. It keeps up the way it is, so we're going by the end of April, first part of May, we'll have the 8-inch down to Cambridge Street, and everything seems to be going good. Keep up with the good weather and we won't have any problems. As far as the businesses in, I met with Central, they gave me specific days that they're slow, and we have to be out of there obviously 4 o'clock, so they take time, so we'll start like 4 or 5 in the morning or something like that.
Yeah.
Work a 12-hour day, get by there. And up where we are now is the lot of hair salon and barber shop, so they're closed on Monday, so hopefully by Monday we'll be ready to John Glass Square. But we've dealt with the church, I meet with them every morning, find out if anything's come up. And tomorrow we're gonna have to close down for a couple hours while we have a funeral.
Yeah.
And we'll get back at it. Been going good, hopefully it stays this good, we'll be done in no time, hopefully.
Yep, all right.
Good
Thank you,
job
Dave.
organizing
Thanks,
it.
Thanks, Dave.
New business,
I think we're on update on the E1 reconductoring. What's
Under old
next? Bill was
business,
going to give a brief update
oh, all
on
right.
that project.
For Taylor Electric Division. Progress has been going on fairly smooth on the E1 now. We've gotten the cable pole from pole 2 Summer Street to pole structure 34 on Bottom Hill. We also, we had the road crossings on Route 44 back on March 6th, 7th, and 8th. We pulled, it was 3 days, we pulled the cable from pole 2 to structure 30 down off of East Main Street. Those were 15,000-foot poles. We also worked with DOT. There's an application that has to be submitted to DOT for approval about 3 months ahead of time for a traffic plan. We use Busy Flash once the plan is approved by DOT to block off the breakdown lanes. We had 5 details that we had set up, crews on Plymouth Street, precinct 44, and on Plymouth Street. And the only time the traffic was stopped on 44 was when the SOX, where the old cable and new cable is together, comes across, and it's about a 2 minutes traffic stop. Where that goes across the road, that right there was the traffic stop. So everything went fairly smooth on that. The hours are limited when we can pull between 9 and 3. We did have to call one day to extend the hours until after 4 o'clock. But they don't want anybody out there much later than 3 usually. And then we scheduled for East Main Street. We were trying to do that on March 23rd. National Grid on the 22nd called and wanted the line recalled. At that point, it's pretty much impossible to recall the line because between the 3 towers, the wire was all set up, the caps aren't made. It would have been about a scheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday on the 26th. They pulled that in, and they were able to cut the dead ends in on Wednesday and relieve Ukraine. And then they completed the work. This week, they're clipping in from pole 2 to structure number 30. They still have to pull the OPWG, the fiber cable from pole structure 23 on the J-Mart farm all the way into the station. And that will probably happen next week. They have to pull the cable from structure 34 to structure 39, which is at the substation. They'll be doing that later this week, hopefully beginning of next. And we had to extend the application with National Grid for the outage. It was supposed to end on the 29th, but we extended it until April 12th. And hopefully we should be able to meet the deadline so we can energize that line on the 12th. That's about it. And then I believe right now we're having discussions. The OPWG fiber cable is supposed to be run from Summer Street, another 10,000 feet down on the M1 line past River Street. But from River Street down to the river, it's quite wet, so we may postpone that work until later this summer or next fall to run that fiber in and make the river crossing down there with National Grid. So we're having discussions with the contractor now. They're willing to lead that and come back, and there shouldn't be any additional charges for that because they're requesting to pull out of there because of the water issues down on River Street. I don't think we want to get into manning that from River Street down to the river. Got an estimate for about over $300,000 for matting. So we already got a change order earlier this year for the matting of the project, and that was close to $1 million for the additional matting that we got to put in on the wet areas. So they'll be starting cleanup this week. They'll be pulling out some of the mats in the areas that have been completed, and the last remaining area to complete will be on bottom hill down to the station. Any questions?
No.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Mr. Chairman, if I may ask you, under new business which we're about to head into, we have 2 bids here that Bill has to speak on anyway, since we already have his attention on the
Yep.
electric division bid award and also to get rid of the gas vehicle.
You want to do that now?
It's up to you.
Yeah.
If my fellow commissioners
You wanna
think that would be a good
You want to do
idea.
your bids?
Yeah.
Is that right?
It's fun.
We got your attention anyway, Bill, if you might as well bring it up.
On March 27th, we had bid openings, 11 o'clock for 4 new three-phase 10-off transformers. We did the evaluations as we normally do, and the breakdowns on the second page. The lowest bidder for the transformers was Westpro. The bid price for $102,032 and a delivery time of 10 to 12 weeks. One of these the 2,000 kVA transformer, one will be for the high school. They want a temporary service in there come this fall. The 2 1500s, we have 2 in stock now that are going out for a new business in Lakeville. And the 2 that we're getting will be backups, and the way the marijuana facilities are being handed out, we'll probably be sending another one out before the end of the year. And I was a little shocked on the lead times, because typically
Yeah.
these larger transformers, I've seen them out as far as 20, 22 weeks, but they gave us a lead time of 10 to 12 weeks, which is pretty reasonable this time.
That is unusual?
Yeah.
For the large ones, 10 to 12
Sure.
weeks is very unusual. The lead times are usually, most of the time, are out 15 to 22, 24 weeks, I've seen before.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, these are very large transformers. I mean, the 2,000 kVAs are 14 to 18,000 pounds, so they're large units.
Yeah. So,
Any other questions?
You're confident with this as being the best one out there?
Sure.
On this particular bid, yes.
Okay. That answers the question.
Need a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Mr. Chairperson, Commissioner Murphy speaking. I make a motion that we accept the recommendations of Bill Taylor our electric division manager, to award the bid to Wesco for ERMCO transformers in the amount of $102,032 with a delivery time of 10 to 12 weeks.
I'll second it.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And do we want to talk about the gas vehicle
Yeah, it shouldn't take-
while we're at it, or?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. What?
Oh, okay.
It's a surplus, right?
Yes. We have a vehicle that's a 2006 Ford 500 sedan with more than 152,000 miles. It needs significant front-end work, and the battery won't hold a charge any longer. So we would ask that this be deemed surplus, and we'll either see if we can get a trade-in on a new vehicle that we're ordering, or we'll see what we could get for it for scrap. I did offer it to the town manager. He doesn't have an interest. I think the cost of repairs would
Yeah.
exceed the value of the vehicle.
Yep.
So I would ask that you deem it surplus.
All right.
Mr. Commissioner,
Go ahead.
Chairperson Farley, Commissioner Murphy speaking, if I may, I make a motion that we vote to accept the recommendation to designate the vehicle that our general manager just spoke about as surplus and ready for disposal.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
I'm just curious, Jackie, if there's any organization that might benefit from just the donation of this vehicle. You know, could we as a board consider that, because using it for a down payment or a trade-in, they're gonna give you $500, they're gonna give you $300 or something like that, it's gonna be worth nothing. Some of these organizations that are out there that, fund possibly Jimmy Fund or some other child's Make-A-Wish Foundation, I think I've actually seen just this past week, they'll actually come and get the vehicle. And it can be used, I believe, as a tax write-off, and it can be a benefit to those groups as well.
We don't actually pay taxes, so there's no
So
write-off,
then-
so there's no savings.
Yeah.
But,
I
it's
don't
something
think
that
we
we could
can.
explore, but I think we would always have concerns about liabilities.
Safety.
I believe that in those situations, the liability is completely erased once it's been signed over to them.
Okay.
And, again, it's like, the last one I noticed was a Make-A-Wish Foundation for kids. And, that, they're gonna take it and put it in for scrap, so they get that $500 or $600 to add to their, and I just think it might be a good idea as stewards to be able to make that as an offer.
I think that is a good idea, but I don't think
I'm
we
not,
can.
I'm not sure.
Are we able to do that? I mean,
Because you're a
I guess that could be
public-
the question.
Yeah, because you're a public entity, I'm not sure you can make donations. I think that was an issue many years ago.
Yes, yeah. I think
When
it
the
was.
board voted to make a donation to a nonprofit fund, and it was found that it wasn't appropriate.
Okay, so then,
I think something else came up, like, if like Lakeville wanted something, we could sell it to them for $1, but we couldn't donate to them. I just in the back of my mind, there was something, some errant little regulation or
piece of
something
red
like
tape that
that.
just kept us from doing something good.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Well, again, this is a cycle of information gathering,
Yeah.
so thank you for your time.
We'll look into it, Paul.
Okay, no, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, we have a first and a second on the floor
Yep.
regarding this vehicle. All we need now is a vote, I guess,
Okay,
if we're ready.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Did you have something, Sandy?
She's
He
next.
does.
Huh?
She's
I think
next.
it's next on the
This
list.
thing.
Are we back onto the
Yes.
schedule? All right.
Now that I moved it around,
Now can you move it?
I wanted to give you a rest.
Thank Thank you for recognizing me, Sandy Richter, Public Communications Manager for Middleboro Gas and Electric Department. First of all, happy spring, thank goodness. And it being spring, and amazingly, we are in the very beginning of April. This doesn't happen very often, that we can actually proclaim April as Safe Digging Month at the very beginning of the month. We usually aim for it at the beginning of the month, or the last month, or the middle of this month. Either way, we're here, it's here, and it's time to remind everyone that they need to call 811 before they put a shovel in the ground. And we ask our board to please declare and proclaim April as Safe Digging Month every year. We've already put this in the messenger that's already going out. As a matter of fact, just want to let you know, we had to get ahead of it a little bit. But we are asking the board's indulgence to go ahead and proclaim April as Safe Digging Month again. And if you don't mind, I'd like to read the proclamation again, so that everyone
Please.
understands
Because I don't want to read it.
what we're asking. Board of Middleboro Gas and Electric Commissioners, Middleboro Gas and Electric Department, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, a proclamation. Whereas each year the nation's underground utility infrastructure is jeopardized by unintentional damage by those who fail to call 811 to have underground lines located prior to digging. Undesired consequences such as service interruption, damage to the environment, and personal injury, and even death are the potential results. And whereas the Common Ground Alliance and its 1,700 members promote the national Call Before You Dig number, 811, in an effort to reduce these damages. Designated by the FCC in 2005, 811 provides potential excavators and homeowners a simple number to reach their local one-call center to request utility line locations at the intended dig site. And whereas, through education of safe digging practices, excavators and homeowners can save time and money, keeping our nation safe and connected by making a simple call to 811 in advance of any digging project, waiting the required amount of time, respecting the marked lines by maintaining visual definition throughout the course of the excavation, and finally, digging with care around the marks. And whereas all parties agree that safe digging is a shared responsibility, to know what's below, call 811 before you dig. Now, therefore, we do hereby proclaim on behalf of the Board of Gas and Electric Commissioners of the Middleboro Gas and Electric Department the month of April 2019 as National Safe Digging Month, and encourage homeowners and excavators alike throughout the communities of Middleboro and Lakeville, Massachusetts, to always call 811 before digging. Safe digging is no accident. Given at the regular meeting of the Board of Gas and Electric Commissioners at the Town of Middleborough, Selectmen's Meeting Room, 10 Nickerson Avenue, Middleborough, Massachusetts, 02346, this third day of April in the year 2019. Will you please accept?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Go ahead, Ellen.
Yes.
So
Oh, we have to vote on this.
Yeah, I make a motion that we accept the proclamation as read for Safe Digging Month.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
thank you, everyone. Please call 811 before you start your projects this year.
Right, Sandy?
What about the rest of
Who does the,
I'll do the
Oh, okay.
Natural Gas Utility Workers' Day was March
it?
18th. The day was chosen because it recognizes a terrible tragedy in 1937 in New London, Texas. There was a school explosion, and after that time, natural gas was odorized. They added a scent to natural gas to help to identify any leaks. And throughout the history of natural gas in this country, safety is a vital aspect of natural gas distribution, and it is a critically important aspect of the work that our own workers do. So we did recognize them on March 18th, and April 18th is National Lineman or Line Worker Appreciation Day as well. And we want to express our appreciation to the great men and women of the electric industry who work so hard for us to keep the lights on and to keep our systems safe every day. So I just wanted to express to the board that these are national celebrations, and we are participating in these to celebrate our own workers.
Excellent.
all right. We don't need a vote for those, right?
No.
We don't need a
Yep.
vote for those.
Okay.
We decided not to give you more proclamations.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And the general manager's report, we don't have,
I don't have much because the change in the meeting dates,
Yeah.
we didn't have new financials, I don't have new rate comparisons, so we'll give those to you next month. Not much has changed on the rate comparisons in any event. On the financials, we had a good month in February, so that that rate stabilization account should be looking better, as I'd mentioned, I think, at the last meeting. I did want to just touch briefly on a couple of things happening on the regulatory scene. And the first was that in the middle of March, the New England Governors Conference came out with a statement on their commitment to regional cooperation on energy issues. And they were recognizing that there is a great concern about the nuclear generation resources in the Northeast. Approximately 25% of the region's electricity comes from nuclear energy, and there was a very serious risk that the 2,100 megawatts at Millstone in Connecticut were going to be retired early. And that would have been a terrible impact to the Connecticut economy, and especially the economy of that local area where it's sited. The state of Connecticut determined to enter into a 10-year contract with Millstone. We actually have a long-term contract with Millstone as well, so we benefit as municipal light plants from support for this facility. The real concern was that the retirement of this nuclear resource could increase New England power sector's greenhouse gas emissions by 25%. So that it's a very important aspect of meeting our Global Warming Solutions Act targets in the region. So that there is a lot of support right now for both Millstone in Connecticut and for Seabrook in New Hampshire. The New England Governors Conference also wants to recognize that we have to address, our current system is designed on market-based mechanisms, but individual states are choosing to change the portfolio for their own states' regulations and laws. And so the governor's commitment is to recognize that that's happening, but to make sure that other states don't pick up the bill for another state's commitment to certain parts of its portfolio. And really, the long and the short of this is, there are states like New Hampshire is not wanting to pick up the costs of energy agenda, priorities for Massachusetts and Connecticut, which are the two more aggressive greening states out of the group. Maine also is now cautiously, and this is a good thing, cautiously supporting a new transmission line that will bring in more Hydro-Quebec, more clean energy to really Massachusetts as the target of that power. And so the Maine governor is now supporting that project, but is also concerned that Maine should not be incurring extra costs for bringing more energy to Massachusetts. So there's a lot of sensitivity about those issues right now, and there are going to be new strategic plans on ways to address those costs, and transmission costs are generally socialized, so now they have to figure out ways to manage that so there isn't an impact on states that aren't participating in these values. I'm also very involved in the Northeast Public Power Association's federal government relations strategy, and they recently were down for a legislative rally in Washington. I didn't go to that meeting because I had the meeting that I went to last week, but I thought I would just go over some of the goals of that strategy. One of our goals is to explore alternatives to the mandatory capacity market that would protect consumers and local decision-making. Right now, the capacity market that we have in ISO New England's territory is very different from a lot of other parts of the country, and is designed to incent generators to build more generation in our region of all sorts. The problem that we're having is that it was supposed to be a market-based design, but because there are other goals now, they're creating all these tweaks that are adding additional costs, like the cost of keeping Exelon's plant, the Mystic plant in Boston, running. And that's causing additional hundreds of millions of dollars to support keeping those resources available for ISO for dispatch for reliability. So there's a lot of sensitivity about these issues. We just want to make sure that they do something that's not going to directly hit the consumer, that people are thinking about the consumer's situation at the end of the day. We also want to educate the congressional delegation on the public power business model, on our local control, and basically our nonprofit role in the market representing our consumers. We also want to be a resource for our politicians on the federal level when they talk about some of these energy issues. We would like to see them streamline the hydropower permitting process, because right now the way that it's set up, it takes far too long, and it makes it very difficult for some of these projects to actually make any progress and to, make a profit on the development. We also want to shape potential legislation and regulations on distributed generation to make sure that our local control is maintained. We want to protect our poles and make sure that we don't see the requirement to have communications infrastructure that might damage the integrity of our electrical poles. We also want to make sure that there's no legislation changes that would threaten the tax-exempt status of municipal bonds. That's always something that comes up in any tax year as a potential revenue source, and we've been fortunate so far that we've got a lot of support for protecting that. We're also working to keep pressure on the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission to scrutinize transmission rates, both for interstate pipelines and interstate transmission. They have a very generous return on their investment, and we want to make sure it's double digit. We want to make sure that that is not exorbitant, because all of those costs come directly down to our ratepayers. The other meeting that I went to last week is this committee that American Public Power Association asked me to replace somebody on this committee, the Electric Sector Cybersecurity Committee. It's a committee that was created about 5 years ago at the request of federal government agencies to make sure that the electric industry was involved in the conversation on protecting the electric grid, particularly focused on cybersecurity. And it's interesting, at that level, they wanted to have CEOs be the representatives on that committee. So the committee is a lot of CEOs for the largest electric companies in the United States. And we interact as well with Canadian companies and with Mexican companies. And Public Power has a core group of representatives on that committee. The previous committee member was from Norwich, Connecticut, which is a gas and electric municipal like Middleboro. And when he came off the committee, they wanted to replace it with another gas and electric municipal. There were only 4 of us in Massachusetts, very few of us in New England at all, so that they had asked me to participate on the committee. I was concerned because I really don't want it to take away from the time I spent here, but it's important that New England have a voice, and surprisingly, for this whole committee, there are no other entities from New England. And the closest really, and they're a big player, is the New York Power Authority, which is a very active member of the committee. So it's actually good for New England Public Power to have somebody involved on that committee. It's a pretty big deal, and so we have a classified meeting for a couple of hours in the middle of the day at the Department of Energy. So I can't talk to you about what was said at that meeting. In fact, when they give us the agenda or the presentation, they collect it at the end of the meeting. You're not allowed to take notes. Your cell phones are put in paper bags, kept in a separate room.
Wow.
So you're meeting with the Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Energy, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And then after that meeting, we have a bigger meeting that isn't classified, where we can talk about what's going on. There are very grave concerns about cybersecurity, and the electric grid, we know, is the target of some foreign actors and some domestic actors as well, some domestic terrorists. So out of this whole process, there is a group that provide public information about what's going on. There's a monthly conference call that's held on the first Tuesday of every month. There are bulletins that come out weekly. There are bulletins that come out periodically. They have different levels of classified information, but it is relentless, this concern about, actors who want to damage the U.S. electric grid. From situations like in California, for years, they've had issues with people going out and shooting at their substations. Now, this is because they have very long systems, long transmission lines, some in very remote areas, and there are domestic terrorists who have a grudge against utility companies and want to damage them any way they can. So that, we hear about these situations in this conference call every week. Things like people stealing copper out of electric division yards like Middleboro's, so that you're obligated to report in whenever there's a security threat to the bulk electric system. You have to, report to the FBI, you have to report to this agency, and then the information is disseminated. So everyone is aware of how dangerous this situation could potentially be, and you have to report immediately if there's any kind of an impact going on in your own territory. I will mention that the day before our meeting, the president came out with an executive order on electromagnetic pulses, and those could be naturally occurring or they could be enemy attacks, and also geomagnetic disturbances. And so the government is really aggressively wanting to heighten awareness, heighten protections, figure out any ways that we can mitigate the impact of these incidents. And I'm not the technical person, but we have a lot of subcommittees that are involved in making real progress on addressing these issues so that we don't have surprises, so that we're prepared for something that might happen. One of the things coming out of these committees is this exercise called GridX. That's a tabletop drill of an energy-related event. And this will take place in November. Companies voluntarily participate, and in the past, the participation has always been mostly large players because they have a lot more going on that's vulnerable, that could be under attack. They're trying to recruit distribution systems to participate. And so it's our intent that Middleboro will participate this year in GridX. Last year, Ed Rappold, our electric division engineer, and I listened in on a GridX exercise, but we didn't actively participate. But we plan to do it this year because there is a real concern that the vulnerability is going to come from companies on the fringes. And a big area of focus is electric materials suppliers, that there's a concern about that supply chain and that these enemy actors are getting involved at the level of some of this equipment, a lot of which is made in other countries. So that a number of years ago, there was a company called Kaspersky that had been an active player in the electric industry, and it was identified a couple of years ago that Kaspersky had a relationship with the Russian intelligence services. And so one of the reasons that the United States is so focused now on anticipating a dangerous situation is because the Kaspersky situation went on longer than it should have. So now they're quite paranoid. And so we did have an announcement at the end of last week that and we also had a letter that came out of a congressional committee, Joe Manchin and Angus King, who are senators on that committee, both put out this letter warning, and the federal government is no longer allowed to purchase materials from Kaspersky, but also from Huawei, which is one of the largest digital network developers. It's a Chinese company, or ZTE, which is another Chinese company, because both Huawei and ZTE, there's another company as well, have a business relationship and an intelligence relationship with Chinese intelligence services and the Chinese army. so that the federal government has already taken the step to say that we have the ability under the John McCain Act to prohibit federal agencies from buying parts from these entities, but now they're recommending that companies at a lower level also be extremely wary about anything they might do with these companies. Now, Middleboro Gas and Electric has not bought any equipment from these companies, nor would we probably, these are really things that are at a much higher level. But the real concern is that the 5G network, which everybody hears about, which is deploying rapidly, a great deal of the investment in the 5G network, a lot of the materials, the development, involves exactly these companies. So that Australia, as a government, in fact, forbade any use of this material because they already have indications that these materials that have already been used to develop a 5G network in Australia have this embedded potential as spyware or malware. So that, you know, these are, it's a very big deal, this committee and this awareness of the government on these issues. And so we're seeing announcements at an escalating level, you know, at least weekly or monthly. So it's a very grave concern. I was put as a co-chair of an oil and gas subcommittee as well, because another concern of this committee is that the electric industry is focusing on this in a very big way, but that, you know, and I think a little bit of this is paranoia. The electric industry always thinks that other industries aren't doing as much. I know from our experience with the gas industry that they are hyper aware of security. And so, but I'm going to be involved on this committee with the guy who's the CEO of Con Ed, 12 million customers, you know, looking at making sure that our industries are sharing information and that they're taking this as seriously as the electric industry. So we right now have this group called EISAC, which is an electric sector information sharing portal. And now they're talking about wanting to have a GISAC so that we would be sharing all this information among the different industries. So, yeah, it's very intimidating, and it feels a little bit like a disaster movie when they talk about it, but, you know, it is a real concern, and so it's important that we participate, and we're doing everything that we can at this point, but I would caution people to really be vigilant. I got another malware email today that, you know, anytime somebody emails you and says there's a crisis or there's money coming to you or they can't read your invoice, or you need to be wary about those things and double check, because they can do terrible damage.
You know, let's not soft pedal. You know, Middleboro has a seat at the table, and if they might have been 4 choices, but they did choose you. So, I mean, that's kind of prestigious when you.
Well, I think it is, and you know, it's kind of odd because, yeah, sitting at the table with the nuclear energy industry and with all these other players involved, there are a lot of lobbyists sitting around the outside of the table who are concerned about their various industries, but it is really important that the little guy gets to speak up, and even the other public power companies are, you know, huge. It's you know, Omaha, Nebraska, Austin, Texas, the Hawaiian Energy Company. So they're companies with hundreds of thousands of customers. So they are sensitive to the fact that the requirements are a huge burden on a small company. And I think they're trying to figure out ways where they can share protections with us, and they'll carry the cost of the protections that are extended to smaller companies. Yeah,
Thank you for saying yes, that you'd sit on it.
Yeah,
thank you.
that's very prestigious. No correspondence?
I do actually have a correspondence, and this is one that we got an email recently from David Kavanaugh, the fish warden, Middleboro Lakeville Herring Fishery Commission, asking us if we could help out with the Wareham Street herring fishery. They had some issues with the kiosk that's there, and they were asking us if we could work with them on getting a dawn to dusk eye and replacing the outlet box. And I'm happy to say that Bill Taylor informed me that the work was done today. One of our own staff people did it. And then the other is, we did get an email in February from Gregory Ulrich, who's the head of Middleboro Youth Softball. They had acquired lights for Field 1. Remember, we did the
Right,
lights for
yep.
Field 2 last year? They had acquired the lights, but they were asking us if we could put them up. And so that's on the list, and we're going to be doing that work this year. So we'll try to get it done as quickly as we can. And it's quite a bit of work, and it will take a couple of days and a couple of crews. But, you know, we want to support community organizations.
Excellent.
If-
Excellent.
The fisheries, people looking to get more light down there? Is that
I think that they'd had a light burn out, and then they had, the electrical outlet at the rear of the kiosk was broken. So,
They having some nighttime fishes?
well, they had a fluorescent light that was on 24/7, and they wanted to go to something that would adjust for dawn to dusk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an informational thing that's down
Yeah,
there.
I know what
that-
the
Yeah.
kiosk
It was an Eagle Scout project.
is. Yeah.
If I may, Mr. Chairman,
Right.
you might want to mention also that the gas and electric did assist in installing the new football field lights down at Battersfield as well. They simply helped, you know,
Yeah.
with the construction there. I don't know what level they did, but I thought it would be important to mention that as well.
Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you very much.
Well, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairperson, I make a motion we adjourn the meeting of April 3rd, 2019.
Second motion.
No further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, I don't think so.